And I sent that email like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's not lost in the junk file. I don't know where. I hope he gets back to me.
Frozen Tundra Football League.
Friends and fellow FTFLers, that's right, it is the longest running weekly episodic fantasy football update show out there, the FTFL Weekly Update. I, of course, am your host, Brett Sieber, owner of the still first place in the North Hulkamaniacs, and everyone's favorite host here during Halloween week. Woo! We are halfway to the mountaintop, or are we at the mountaintop and we're coming down? I don't know what you want to describe it as, but we are 7 weeks into the regular season. We have 7 weeks to go, and we will celebrate that later on in the show. First and foremost, round of applause and cheers to Andy for finally getting off the schneid. It took a long time, but he got it, that coveted third victory, matching in what took him 13 weeks to acquire last year in only 7 weeks this year. At this pace, he's going to have 6 wins and probably miss the playoffs, but I guess you never know. Not so much for Salty. He is still riding the schneid, or on the schneid. I don't know how you're supposed to phrase that, but his team is still struggling. 5 straight losses for Adam Saltmarsh after an amazing start. Eric, on the other end of the spectrum, continues to charge, continues to be the best scoring team in the league, still has the most points scored against him in the league, no matter. He is 4-3 and on the move. And on the move might be a few players in particular from Adam Saltmarsh's team. He is the first to announce the fire sale. We are nearing that point of the season. Now, mind you, Salty is still only 3 games out of first place with 7 to go. Anything is possible, but I have a feeling we'll see more of these moving sales before long. And again, I did make mention of the halfway point awards. We're going to celebrate later in the show. I'm going to hand out some, not so much nominations, but some accolades as to where I think things stand as we are now at the halfway point of the season. And last but certainly not leastly, a lot of chatter on the chat board this week about players being out, about benches scoring 0 points. It was bye-mageddon. 6 teams had a bye. I know Matt had 6 guys on bye alone, and of course that is the reason he is using for his game, which is up first as we head to the games, and here we go. The Valhalla Vandals coming in at 4-2, fresh off a loss to you know who, taking on the Architect 4-2, battle for first place in the South. It was a tight one, 95.5 for Peter, 86 to Matt. If you are Peter, a couple things have happened this year. Number one, first and foremost, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase sat out last year due to COVID protocols. So you know what? I'm just not going to play. I'm going to try to be safe. In preseason, then was drafted in the first round by the Colts nonetheless. In preseason, he couldn't hold on to the ball. Everyone's like, my goodness gracious, what has happened to Jamar Chase? Oh, nothing except for him racing up the board to the number 2 overall receiver. 26 points for him this week. A.J. Brown, 18 points. Welcome back, A.J. Brown. This is his first 18-plus point game this season. He had 5 such games last year. Of course, if you're Peter, you need this because as we've talked about, your bench depth is not great. Someone else to score points is going to be much appreciated. And not every week are you going to have a Dearness Johnson to tack on 17, the man who was on the streets carrying packages, doing other things for just side jobs for money, finds himself the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns, which, let's be honest, hasn't always been a life's goal for many, many people. But this week it was a good one. By the way, he has been in and out of the league over the last couple of years. He has a grand total of 16.5 points. Over those 2 seasons, he bested that in just one game this year. Mahomes, 6 points. Tyreek Hill, 7 points. Under 20 points combined. I didn't have time to go all the way back. I did a lot of different research this week. That wasn't one of them, but I got to believe there are not a lot of games where that combo is below that mark. Brady on the bench, 28 points. And if you've been paying attention, Brady at age 44 has been having quite a season. Will he be honored in the halfway awards? Stay tuned. If you're Matt, 6 players on the bye led to this. Matt Stafford, 26 points, holding up his end of the deal. Devontae Adams, 13 points, and what might be his last game for a short little while. He is going to miss this week. Of course, he is on the COVID list. No matter, I still believe the Packers, go Pack Go, can head out to the desert tomorrow night and get that W. Josh Jacobs comes back with 11.5 points. Terry McLaurin on the bench with 21.5 points. Not started in favor of Cortland Sutton, who got 6.5. Now, if my Invergrove Heights math is correct, that is a 15-point difference and would have won Matt the game. Instead, he's now in second in the South, and Peter moves on to first. Another team that was part of that 3-way on top of the South Division, the Make America Great Again, coming in at 4-2, taking on the surging Pack Attack at 3-3, and the surge continues. 105.5 for Eric, 90 for Sid. If you're Eric, in what is easily the surprise player of the Fantasy 2021 season, Cooper Kupp continues to just rake. 27 points. I know that was a baseball reference, Andy. Go ahead and file your complaint in the FTFL inbox. Antonio Brown. No, it wasn't Antonio Brown. 16.5 points. Brown. Who is Eric have on his team that is named Brown? Because Antonio Brown, I don't believe, played. Because Mike Evans caught all those points. I'm thinking. Tampa defense, 19. Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, 13 points apiece. Leonard Fournette, by the way, and we're going to get back to that Brown character, I know, in just a moment. It is going to... Oh, you know what? Is that the Cleveland Browns? That can't be the Cleveland Browns. It's not them either. I don't know. You know what? I write sloppy sometimes, and I can't always tell. But Leonard Fournette, speaking of not being sloppy, 50 points over his last 3 games. That is his best 3-game stretch of the last 3 seasons. That is why he is playing so. Eric's team is playing so well. And by the way, I thought of it. Marquise Hollywood Brown with 16.5 points. That's right, the steel trap. Now, Eric, all of this without Russell Stupid Face Wilson. I know I didn't think I get to say his name, but I worked it in there somehow. In his place, Sam Darnold, who has been anything but abysmal. Anything but abysmal? No, he's been abysmal. Brain is a little bit fried tonight. Sam Darnold, 2 points. When you get 2 points from your starting quarterback, odds are you're going to lose, but unless you are Eric, and of course he won. Now, Sid started Sam Heineke, 20 points. 20 points for the Heine. But still, he got tagged, he got touched, and he got down. Godwin had 16. Michael Pittman had 14. Antonio Gibson, 3 points. He's been averaging 10 a week. Mark Andrews, 3.5 points. He's been averaging slightly over 10 points a week. You take those points, you add them to Sid's score. Those 2 players let him down this week as far as I see it. Maybe nominations for the Dud of the Week award. Sid had 0 on his bench because of injuries and buys, and let's be clear, just poor management. Picking up players that don't even play, that haven't played, that play 1 play of a game. I don't know. The strategy is a bit weird, and it has led to you now being 4-3 and in second place in the South Division. Last game before the halfway awards, Mana, 4-time Lucky Pants, belt-stealing champ Mana coming in at 3-3, taking on Liquid Schwartz at 3-3. A battle for first place. There was a 3-way in the South. There's a 3-way in the North, and none of which are involving our old friend, the owners of the Saggy Titties and Balls. Schwartz dominates this week, 105.5 to Markster's 88.5. Joe Burrow. Schwartz, quarterback on bye. Josh Allen, no matter. Joe Burrow, 34 points. Younghoe Koo had 14 points, and Devontae Booker notched 11, along with Khalil Herbert's 10.5. If you, on your fantasy 2021 season bingo card, had Devontae Booker and Khalil Herbert as a starting running back tandem any point in time during the season, you just won $1 bazillion, because good Lord, that actually happened. TJ Hawkinson only notched 5. First 2 weeks, he had a combined 32 points. The last 5 weeks, only 19 points. TJ Hawkinson started strong, but hasn't really brought much as of late. If you're Markser, that's kind of been the MO. Hasn't brought much as of late. Jalen Hurts, 22 points. Jonathan Taylor, Mike Gesicki both had 13. Elijah Mitchell for San Fran, who looked really good on Sunday night in the rain. I don't know, maybe Markster has found himself another running back. He had 12. Arizona's defense, 10. If you're keeping track, and yes, I am. I haven't officially created the board. Next week, I will have the official board that is created, the John Jeff Trade Watch chart. DeAndre Hopkins, James Conner, and Justin Herbert combined for 21.5 points. That is with Herbert on a bye. Jameis Winston, Jonathan Taylor, and Will Fuller combined for, Jeff doesn't have Jameis anymore, and Will Fuller's on the IR. So yeah, those 3 players are down to 13.5 points. That's right. Not 1, not 2, but 3 consecutive weeks. That trade has worked out in John's favor. Sadly, however, it hasn't in the win column. John is only 1 and 2 over those 3 weeks. All right, we have reached it, folks. Up until this season, we've always had 13 regular season games, so I didn't know if I should celebrate the halfway point at week 6, if I should celebrate the halfway point at week 7, but with 14, boy, oh boy, we split it right down the middle, and we have reached what I would like to call the halfies. All right, so we're going to follow along a little bit with what I would normally do for the stud, the dud, the decent, but a couple little additions along the way as we celebrate the halfies. First and foremost, stud. Stud at the halfway point, by the way, leading our league in points, yet has not started a single game. Age 44, Tom Brady, 178 fantasy points to date, and he has not seen the field yet. Peter has been just absolutely, convinced that riding Mahomes is going to bring him to victory. And at 5-2, it's tough to argue with that logic. Will Peter keep Tom Brady? Will he let Tom Brady go? Now, if we're going to go with people who have been starting, this one's a no-brainer. It's King Henry. 145 points for him. The next running back is 50 points away. And who that is a bit of a surprise. More on him in a little bit. Jonathan Taylor, who Jeff traded to get rid of Henry, has 93 points. Yep, there's a bit of a discrepancy. I know a second-round pick is in there somewhere, but King Henry is having himself a season. He is, along with Tom Brady, stud of the halfway mark. Now, the duds. I went back and I looked at the draft, because I wanted to all right, who is underperforming based on where they were drafted? And I came up with 3 of them, all taken in the second round. The first and foremost, and this one is, I think, the slam dunk champion, Miles Sanders. Second round, second pick overall by Adam Saltmarsh, 29.5 points through 7 games. Barely over 4 points a game for a starting running back in the NFL, taken in round 2 of our draft. George Kittle. 1 pick later, pick 3 in the second round, only has 21.5 points, because a lot like last year, brother can't get on the field. If you can't get on the field, you're a dud, especially when you're going in the second round. And lastly, Mike Davis, another who we thought was going to be a starting running back on a fantasy team, 7th pick in the second round. He has only amassed 37 points. Now, that's more than Miles Sanders. That's more than Greg Kittle, George Kittle, whatever that Kittle guy's name is. But when Cordero Patterson has 83.5 as an undrafted free agent, that one, Eric, stinks. Think how good your team would be, Eric, if you would have drafted Patterson. But no one really knew, so I'm not holding you at fault for that one. Now, of course, we have to hold someone at fault here when it comes to the decent, and I think this one, too, is relatively straightforward. Adam Saltmarsh and your running back production. Holy cow. Holy cow. I mean, and your game is coming up. It's another thing we've been keeping track of. The Jeff and John trade, but we're also keeping track of how many running backs single-handedly have scored more than your duo each and every starting week. That right now is the front runner in my book. Used to your running back play. The biggest surprise as far as team this season, I got to go with Peter. He does have the top 2 players in fantasy, along with the number 2 overall receiver, but he has a ton of rookies. Trey Sermon, Michael Carter Jr. I know Tyson Williams, who's not a rookie, but he was on. He's got just very, very, very little depth on his team. I'm assuming he's trying to rectify that, but at 5-2, you got to feel like, what I'm doing is working. We'll see. And one injury and the whole thing can come down like a house of cards. The biggest letdown so far, I had to pick 2 teams, and it wasn't me, because my team is 4-3, and I'm in first place in the North. Number 1, coming out of the draft, a second year in a row, A+ rating, Andy at 3-4. He was a defending champ 2 seasons ago. This year, he can't seem to pick the right quarterback to start. His team was supposedly stacked, not so much. Finally did get his 3rd win. Now, he is only 1 game out of first at this point, so his season is not over, but it is definitely not living up to expectations, as well as Jeff's season. Jeff is also 3-4. He is the defending champ, and he has been involved in a couple of trades. He acquired DeAndre Hopkins, which made a ton of sense. Jeff had running backs. He needed a receiver. Eric needed a running back, and he had receivers. That trade made sense. But then when you spun around and you got rid of DeAndre Hopkins and you turned him into Jonathan Taylor, Jameis Winston, and Will Fuller, I don't know if that made a ton of sense. Now, again, maybe I'll eat my words later on in the season. And Jeff, if I do, you can come on the show and you can give me the big I told you so moment that I know you're just thinking about right now as you're watching. Lastly, GM at the halfway point, this is Eric. Eric has the most points for. He has the most points against. He is 4-3. Eric has acquired, by the way, scoring the most points against. I should have mentioned Peter's team at 5-2. You guessed it, fewest points scored against. We see it every year. It's not anything new, but that often does lead to teams having a better record. Mind you, the top 3 teams in the South, all of them have the fewest points scored against them. No wonder they've been playing so well, except, of course, the other week when we beat them 3-2. Eric, along the way of going 4-3 and scoring all those points, has acquired a first-round pick for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Andy turned DeAndre Hopkins 76.5 points into King Henry's 145 points. Bravo, Eric, bravo. Can you see it all the way through? Not entirely sure, because this was just the halfies. All right, next up, Hulkamaniacs coming in at 3-3, first place in the North, taking on the Radioactive Monkeys at 2-4, who were desperately looking to get off the schneid. We already learned they didn't. 96.5 points for Saltmarsh. Not a bad week, but it wasn't enough to tackle the 121 that my squad put up. Rogers 22, Kamara, a blistering night on Monday Night Football 21. Damian Harris, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, continues to be an absolute amazing running back. 19 points. DK was 17. Patterson 11. The Packers defense 14 points. Points all over the place. If you are Saltmarsh, you flexed your tight end this week. You kind of tried some things, got some stuff out there to see if you could make a go of it. Stupid Face Jr. Kyler Murray, 26 points. CJ Uzuma with 23.5 points. By the way, that is the second 20-point game of the season alone. I saw 23.5 points. I'm like, well, this has got to be like just an absolute aberration. Maybe not. Tanyan and New England both notched a dozen, but it was the running backs. Miles Sanders, half point. DJ Dallas, something named DJ Dallas, 0 points. Combined, his 14 running back starts, 35.5 points. Barely over 2 points a week. 36. Last week, we notched up from 32 to 31. This week, we tumbled back to 36. Individual running backs have more points than Saltmarsh's starting running backs combined. And that is why he finds himself now at 2-5. One other team that's going to be 2-5 is the loser of the last game of the week here, Mixing Cocktails, coming in at 2-4, taking on Team Linkowitz at 2-4. Linkowitz with his second highest point total of the season and the third straight week that he went over 90 with 94.5, and it didn't really matter. Andy got 98.5. Ooh, that's a tough one. 4-point differential. Good news, Andy started the right quarterback. Didn't have a choice. Good news, next week, he's going to start this week, he's going to start the right quarterback because he doesn't have a choice. Yay! play for easy decisions. Mike Evans had himself a day, 25 points. Lamar had 18. Deebo Samuel, 15.5. Nick Folk, 15. Aaron Jones, 4.5 points. Aaron Jones had 6 carries. Now, he did catch the ball quite a bit and got a lot of yards doing that, and he is the Packers' second leading receiver, and he's going to see a ton of action this week when I play Andy, because Devontae and Lazard are both out. Green Bay. How in the blue hell is Aaron Jones? Aaron Jones gets just 6 carries in a ball game. 6 carries. You are not going to continue to win and continue to be successful if Aaron Jones is only amassing 6 carries. For crying out loud, pull it out your butt and let's go. Jesus. Huh. All right, if you're Team Linkowitz, DeAndre Swift leads the way again, 22 points. By the way, in case you're not paying attention at home, DeAndre Swift is, the number 2 running back. When I said Derrick Henry was 50 points ahead of the next guy, that's DeAndre Swift, who is ahead of Jonathan Taylor as well. Man, what a season he is having. And also taken after Miles Sanders and Mike Davis there in the second round. Tannehill's 16. Kyle Pitts, where John was like, you know what, enough's enough. We're going to stop the bleeding. I'm going to start Kyle Pitts, take the rookie status off him, 13.5. Of course, wasn't enough. John does have Devontae Smith, receiver in Philadelphia, as another rookie keeper, so he's going to be okay in that department. DeAndre Hopkins, 11.5 points. James Conner, 10. Continuing to get contributions from the players he acquired from Markstrom, but of course, not enough. All right, that's enough of the games. We get the stud, the dud, the decent in next week's games, and we are out of here. Stud of the week. We go with quarterbacks often because in our league, they obviously score the most points. This week, no quarterbacks. Cooper Kupp, 27 points. Number 1 receiver in all of football and absolute steal of the draft. Jamar Chase, 26 points. Number 2 receiver in all the league. Both those guys are carrying their teams right now. Dud of the week, Salty's running backs, 0.5 point. I mean, sure, Antonio Gibson and Mark Andrews for Sid let him down this week, but that was just this week. Salty's running backs all damn season have been just abhorrent. This week's, decent award was to Salty's running backs. That's going to be just kind of a broken record theme right now until maybe, we're going to have a party with cake when Salty's running backs combined score more than 10 points. That's right, you heard it here. Cake on the update for Salty's running backs if they can go over 10 points combined. I can't wait because I love cake. The reason that Swart should win the decent this week, he started Devontae Booker and Khalil Herbert. No one should ever start it worked. And Swart, even after he kind of had like a weird mini fake fire sale, he finds himself tied in first place. He did tell me he thought he was one of the best teams in the league. I think maybe he forgot that I was also in first place. But we'll play soon enough and we'll let the games decide that. Speaking of games, next week, week 8, Liquid Schwartz at 4-3, coming in against the Pack Attack at 4-3. Battle of almost 2 first-place teams. Swart would tell you the 2 best teams in the league. Eric is owning this rivalry to date, 13-9. The Valhalla Vandals coming in at 5-2 without their hammer, clearly. Taking on Kramerica at 4-3 in a battle in the South. This is the first meeting between the two because, of course, we all know Ryan Deesum quit because he couldn't handle the rigors of running a fake football team. The Hulkamaniacs at 4-3 leading the North, taking on Mixon Cocktails in the first brother versus brother game this season. I own one of the few series that I have a winning percentage in, 24-16 over Andy over the years. Mana 4-time Lucky Pants, belt stealing champ. Mana coming in at 3-4, taking on Team Linkowitz, trying to keep himself out of the cellar, and Linkowitz there at 2-5. Jeff owns that series, 25-18-1. And lastly, the Architect of 4-3 taking on the Radioactive Monkeys, who are just in desperate need of a win, and 10 points for the running back so we can eat cake. Matt owns this one, 13-6. Whew, halfway there. Let's finish strong. 7 weeks. Anything can happen, of course. That's why we play the game. Have a great rest of the week. Happy Halloween and peace! Hey, man, thanks for coming. I've got your first installment here, plus the bonus for first place halfway through the seat. A mask? I mean, come on. I don't even know who you are. I know it's Halloween, but whatever. We'll see you in 7 weeks. Thanks for your help.